Kanye West just had the highest grossing rap show in history. Kanye West. After all the comments, all the chaos, his nitrous addictions, I don't even know what the hell this dude has been doing over the last 5 to 10 years. And not only that, but at 72 million monthly listeners on Spotify, he's currently at the peak of his career. After over 20 years, he now sits at the top. There are more people listening to Kanye West right now than there have ever been in the entire history of his career. And so the first question that comes to my mind is, how is this even possible? And really the answer is simple. The streaming era. The streaming era is responsible for why he's at the top of his career currently, but that same streaming era that amplifies him is why it makes it impossible for anybody to replace him at that spot, which is very interesting. Like, I was scrolling X recently, and I came across a tweet that said Yeat is the most influential rapper of the 2020s. Some of you might agree with this. I mean, after all, he has carved his own lane. He just released his album as well, and he's really built a true fan base. And he sells out shows around the world. He streams really well. He's a fantastic artist. I love listening to his music. But the difference between Yeat and Kanye West is my mom knows who Kanye West is. Now my mom doesn't listen to rap music, okay, first of all. But my mom knows who Kanye West is. My mom has no idea who Yeat is. How can the most influential rapper of this decade not even be known by my mother? It doesn't make sense to me. I was just thinking about this, like, how is this even possible? Like, how is Kanye now at the top? And so in this video, I'm going to try and answer this question of why Kanye West is currently at the top of his career. But more importantly, there's a few lessons in here that we can learn as creatives that we can also apply. How can we use the streaming era to our advantage? And what does Kanye's career teach us, not only about music, but society and influence as a whole? While the answer is nuanced, I think it provides really invaluable insight into how creatives should be building their careers and what exactly they should be optimizing for, regardless of where you are in your journey. There's something to be learned here. The first thing that I want to talk about is how streaming is basically a time machine. I'm currently 22 years old, for reference, and I discovered Kanye West when I was 16 years old. I knew who he was before, but that's when I really started listening to him. The way that I discovered him was interesting. I was on a Discord call with my friends. It was the COVID pandemic, and we were all just chronically online. And so one of my friends in the Discord call, I remember him playing All Falls Down. I remember him telling me, yo, like, Kanye is crazy. Like, you gotta listen to this song. And I had never heard All Falls Down before. Usually when you're in the Discord call, like, the songs are just going on in the background. But when this song came on and I just heard the guitar, I just stopped everything that I was doing. I just listened. My first thought was, who even is this guy? What is this? It was just something I had never heard before, but it just really piqued my interest. In the following weeks and the following months, I began this entire journey where Kanye quickly became my most streamed artist. I was a big hip hop fan at the time, and I listened to every single album one by one, and I just fell in love with everything that he was doing. At least for some of you watching this video, you've gone through the same thing. Maybe not with Kanye, but with a similar artist. But even if you haven't gone through this incredible journey of listening to Kanye West's music, it's right there waiting for you. All you need is a Spotify subscription. You can exit this video right now, open Spotify, and listen to All Falls Down, just like me. If we think about this on a macro perspective, every single day, there is some 16-year-old guy just like me from all around the world that is listening to All Falls Down for the first time, that's listening to Flashing Lights for the first time, that's listening to Heartless for the first time. And they're having the exact same reaction as me. It just leads them down the same path. When you multiply that over 10 years, since streaming has really become popular, it makes sense why he's never been bigger. With every controversy, with every album drop, with every tweet, and like every time he's sent into the press, new people discover him. They're like, this guy Kanye West is in the news a lot. Let me see what this is about. It sends people into his catalog, and the same thing that happened to me happens to them. And the catalog just sits there. It just sits there. And I'm gonna flash a graph on screen where you can see his monthly listeners here and how it's really evolved. And you can see that since Donda, it's doubled, right? In the last 5 years, his monthly listeners have doubled. What's even more interesting about the streaming era is like this was not possible prior. If I wanted to listen to music in the 90s, I needed a CD player. I needed a vinyl. If I wanted to discover Kanye West, instead of it being as simple as just opening up Spotify, I would not only have to ask for my mom for money, but I would have to get her to come to the shop with me and buy only one of the albums. Then if I liked it, hopefully I'd convince her to buy another one. On top of that, think about all the reasons why my mom would not even take me on that trip in the first place. I'm Jewish, like I'm part of a Jewish family. My mother and other people that haven't gone on the same discovery journey as me, they're not going on that trip. They're just not doing it. And so me as a 15-year-old never gets to discover Kanye West in the same easy way that I could today. Do you see how the friction between listening to new music was just so much greater back then? But in the streaming era, this rabbit hole, I want to call it the rabbit hole of a discography or of a catalog, it's always open and anyone can jump in at any time. Every song that you've ever made or that you've ever released, when someone discovers you for the first time, it is there waiting. And if they really like your music, they are gonna go into your albums. Think about the way that you listen to music. I love to discover an artist. If there's an artist that I listen to for the first time and I really like I'm gonna go deep into the discography. And a lot of people probably do the same thing. Every single song you've made has that ability for someone to go and discover for the first time, even if you made it like 5 years ago. All falls down when I listened to it in 2021. What does it mean? Like 17 years before that? It came out in like 2004? Yet I'm still having that experience for the first time. I'm gonna talk about this concept a little bit more later in the video, but long story short, we want people entering this rabbit hole when they discover your music. If you look on YouTube today, you're gonna see a plethora of music marketing gurus like preaching about how the industry is moving super fast, and when you're just starting out, it's not smart to build albums. I do agree with this as an artist when you're trying to capture attention for the first time, but albums might be the only thing that solidifies you in the mainstream. If you only have singles, you're just not gonna get people to buy in the same way. A single is not gonna be able to compete with an entire project or an entire body of work. You're just not going to resonate with that artist as much if there's only singles to discover. And this is something that I see in the EDM and the dance music world a lot, where a lot of dance artists will blow up off of one single. They become very well known for the single, but it becomes almost impossible to build them as a person and as a brand because they don't have any albums, because they're always chasing the single. And part of this is just how EDM and dance works, but eventually you absolutely want to be building this catalog due to the fact that these albums that you create, they're gonna be on Spotify forever. And just like I was talking about before, it becomes super easy for people to come in and just listen to your new music, right? These catalogs are assets. Over the last 5 years, a lot of artists' catalogs are being sold to private equity firms. We were not seeing this before because these assets, they build over time. Kanye West's catalog is always gonna be worth something no matter what. These private equity firms, they want albums like Graduation that will just live on forever and have 15-year-olds discovering them forever. They just live forever. Another example of this phenomenon is Mariah Carey. Every single Christmas, Mariah Carey makes millions of dollars from a song that she recorded 30 years ago. She recorded All I Want for Christmas Is You 30 years ago, but she makes millions of dollars on it every single year because it's used in all the commercials and it's just everywhere. It's in our faces. This is the exact reason why a catalog is valuable. Another example of this to even illustrate my point further is Running Up the Hill by Kate Bush. This song was made in 1985, 40 years ago, but in Stranger Things season 4, it was used predominantly throughout the season. The song made more money in its 40th year of existence than it did in the previous 39 because people heard the song when they were listening to Stranger Things. They loved it, and instead of having to go to the store and buy an album, they could just open up their phones. They could open up Spotify, listen to it, add it to their playlist. A song from 1985 found millions of new people overnight, and every single one of them could just open up Spotify and listen. That is the power of the streaming era. So while singles should be used to initially build discovery, you're going to need albums to have people buy into you because it's the only way that you're going to strengthen your relationship with fans and also allow 15-year-olds to come on this journey and easily discover you. I want to talk back about Kanye West for a second, because I brought up a point earlier about how I don't think there's ever going to be an artist that replaces him. And so I want to explain why. I want you to think about for a second all of the biggest artists in the world. The Kanye West, the Jay-Z, the Taylor Swift, Bruno Mars. These artists have been around for decades. They are not new artists. Sure, they've had this large amount of time to build something that really has turned into something incredible. But even more so, they were just given a better distribution of attention. In the abundance era, which I like to call this world of music that we're in, there's never been more fragmentation of attention than ever, from a consumer perspective. This is just in a day. There's 150,000 songs that want our attention. There's 23 million TikToks uploaded every day that want our attention. And there's 3 million YouTube videos that are uploaded every single day that want our attention, including me. But not only that, AI is just making the entire process of creation so much easier than it's ever been. And so these numbers, while they might seem insane, I only see them continuing to grow. As a result of this abundance, there's just so much fragmentation of attention, and it's kind of broken, at least in the United States, it's kind of broken our cultural center. We still have the Super Bowl, we still have the World Cup, but there's no center of culture anymore like I think there was 20 years ago when attention was just on the TV. We just were all much more focused on the same thing. This fragmentation really will never allow someone to be as big as Kanye ever again, in music at least. The universality is just impossible now. Unless you become incredibly controversial, which, let's look at Kanye over the last 5 to 10 years. He has become much more controversial. Whether he's done this intentionally or not, it's what's kept him on the top of people's minds. When you think about even in politics or social media or anything, all of the most influential figures today, or the ones that we all know about, they all are the most controversial people. And I think this is just a biological system that we fall into as humans. We're just more gravitated to people that cause controversy. It just seems to capture attention better, for better or worse. Another recent example of this is Clavicular. You probably don't watch his live streams, but you certainly know who he is. There's a certain image with Clavicular that just comes into your mind when you think about him, and it's because he's controversial. It's because he's polarizing. Being controversial and being polarizing is what creates this extremely high level of influence. Like Andrew Tate is another one, right? Just very controversial, polarizing figures. That's why everyone knows who he is. And so the same thing can be said about Kanye. These crazy statements and this craziness just allow him to be in the media like kind of perpetually. There was Bully, and then there was the SoFi Stadium, and then he just got canceled from Wireless. These are all things that just like keep him in the mainstream. He just stays in people's mouths. And as long as that is happening, 15-year-olds, like I was talking about before, are just going to be able to come in and discover him. As humans, we just love to talk about drama, and we love to talk about shared experiences. Kanye is someone that everybody knows, and he's causing drama. So it's very easy to talk with your friends or your family or just like with other people about him. He just stays top of mind, and that all just funnels people into his music. This is exactly how power and influence is created. It's not just from his music, but it's also from just the actions that Kanye takes in general. But not only that, everything that Kanye does is very unpredictable. You have no idea what this man is going to be up to next, and that makes us even more interested and makes him have even more influence than he otherwise have. This just kind of all plays into this cycle. I will build a graph where you can kind of see this cycle happening. I'll put it on screen where like Kanye does something unpredictable, the unpredictability creates influence, and the influence then gets it into our mouths. The cycle of influence that reinforces him and has allowed him to be at the top. I want you to understand something, okay? You should not aim to have this level of power or influence. This is not something that you have to do, and it's not something that you should aim to do. It's not gonna build the meaning or the satisfaction that you're looking for. And I think part of the problem with people that gain so much power and influence is it's just not fulfilling them in the way that they perceive that it's going to, and so they always need to be constantly chasing more. That's why you see all these antics all the time. Instead of chasing this power and this influence, you can build a community of supporters, you can release music consistently, and you can still travel the world and make millions. There's never been a better time to distribute your music and let people discover you and who you are. You can be just like Yeet. Yeat has a community of supporters, he releases music consistently, and he still travels the world, sells out shows, and makes millions of dollars. If you make hip hop, you can still build an incredible long-term career doing this. This is just very important to understand. You do not have to optimize for this level of influence. You just don't. I want you to think about this for a second. What are your favorite songs? Just think about it for a second. Maybe pause the video, think about it. I'm sure a few are coming to mind. But have you ever thought about why those songs are your favorite songs? It's like, oh, I just really like how the song sounds. But I think there's something deeper than that, and I want to explore this for a little bit. The main thing that it really comes down to is just your memory and your experiences associated with them. So let me give you an example, a couple examples of this. And maybe you can resonate with the examples that I'm going to give you. So for me, right, one of my favorite songs of all time is Long Time by Playboi Carti. Just excellent song. Every time I listen to it, I'm immediately brought back to the winter days of my senior year of high school. It reminds me of me being in the car, it's cold. I'm just driving back from the gym. I would play Long Time by Playboi Carti like every time I left the gym. And I had just started going to the gym at that point. The lyrics, like, I didn't feel like this in a long time. Like, I was just proud of myself, of my progress and what I was doing in the gym in these first few months. I was just proud of looking at myself in the mirror. And I'm like, man, I didn't feel like this in a long time. I didn't look like this in a long time. I love to relive that experience and that emotional memory. So I've ended up playing the song over 300 times. This is how a song becomes evergreen. As a creative, this is what we want to have happen. When you think about Kanye West, think about all of these incredible emotional experiences that he's created for people. I think about Donda. Like, Donda literally dropped the day after the first high school party that I ever went to. It was after COVID. It was literally the first time I was ever doing anything related to parties. And one of my closest friends was hosting the party, and he had 30 of us over at a sleepover because we all weren't going to drive home. But the morning after, Donda dropped. And so everyone is slowly getting woken up by like, yo, did you hear Donda dropped? Did you hear Donda dropped? And everybody wakes up and it's like, oh my God. And it's just this incredible collective experience that I was able to have in my final years of high school. That memory is forever cemented in my brain, and I can recount it very well when I think about it. It's just gonna make me so much more likely to listen to Donda if I want to relive that moment. Donda isn't even one of Kanye's best albums. I'm not gonna say Donda is top 3, but it just has a lot of emotional association. And there are other Kanye songs that remind me of various things. I took a ski trip with my family in 2021, and I was just listening to Devil in a New Dress. I was studying abroad at Rome last spring, and I just put on flashing lights, just looking at the skyline and looking at how beautiful this city really was. These are the moments that make songs stick and make people actually always want to listen to them. But how do you create these songs? It's important to define active listening versus passive listening. So passive listening, you're just doing your work, or you're just doing something other activity. Maybe you're playing basketball with your friends and you just have the music on in the background. That's passive listening. 30 years ago, there was much less passive listening. If you went to the store and you spent $10 on an album or a new CD, like, you were gonna actively listen to that CD. Because you spent the money on it, you're gonna wanna listen to it more. Not only that, but you actually might convince yourself that you like the album, even if you originally didn't, simply because of the money that you spent. What's unfortunately happened is that passive listening has made it so that people listen to music all the time, but they're not necessarily comprehending what they're listening to. They're not creating any of those like emotional or memorable experiences that I was talking about previously. It's more just in the background. If you add on top of that just the general lack of attention span that we've all gotten, people are skipping songs all the time at alarming rates. We've all definitely had experiences like the one that I described above, but the ability to create those experiences has become more difficult. You still have to create this experience. If you want people to really listen to your music like 300 times and come out to your shows and spend money, like, we need to create those experiences. As a fan, you can contribute to building these experiences. Maybe you host a listening party. You invite some friends over when you want to listen to a new project together. Another thing that comes to my mind is just live events and concert experiences. These experiences, they're not only shared, you're likely going with your friends, but the experience of hearing something live just levels above anything on Spotify. So you're automatically, if you can get people to come to your shows, you're already creating those shared experiences and those memories for when people go back to listen to those songs again. How do we create these shared important, memorable experiences. It definitely comes down to a few things, but the most important thing is you just have to be yourself, and you have to bring your true self to the microphone. Your emotions, your experiences, your perspective, like all of it. If you just allow yourself to be vulnerable on the mic and you open yourself up through expression, you're able to produce art. You're able to create an internal meaning and just express that into the world. You allow people to come in and hear what you're feeling and then create their own experiences for themselves. Over time, this is what builds your voice. Your music almost becomes a collection of emotional experiences, and these experiences and these feelings evolve over time. Just like your favorite songs, the music that you make starts to represent different times of your life, which is crazy. We see this with every artist, right? Why does every Kanye album sound different than the last? Why does every Drake album sound different than the last? Because there's different internal states. There's different experiences going on in the mind. It all sounds different. It all represents something different. It all has different themes that he's talking about. It's for the same reason, right? He was different internally. And maybe Kanye's bipolar disorder is why he's able to do this so effectively. But this vulnerability is what builds connection. It's what builds meaning. And that meaning can really come in any form. But as the new meaning emerges, the music changes. This is how I define art. You are expressing your internal meaning into the world. And over time, the feedback you get from the world is what builds a cycle of new internal meaning that emerging. And we don't just see this in your music, but we see this in everyday life. Our emotions and our experiences are changing all the time. If we can express that through music or some other form of creativity, this is what becomes art. Viewing art in this way is what's going to build your catalog. It's what's going to build this different type of music that you make and these different experiences that you have and this internal meaning. Sure, Kanye's been making music for decades. He comes from a very musical background. He made 5 beats a day for 3 summers, and he's also worked with some of the greatest people in the world musically. But the most important thing is that he fully just brings himself to the mic. He brings his true self, and he is truly expressing himself every time he makes music, no matter what. That is why he is at the top of his career, and that is why he can still gross the biggest rap show in history, no matter what. So you will never be as popular or influential as Kanye West. You cannot replicate everything he's done, but you can start building your catalog today. Every song that you make with emotional honesty is not only what will become part of your evergreen catalog, but it will be the very thing that separates you from everybody else. Nobody has had the collection of experiences that you have. And so while the streaming era has made the biggest artists bigger than ever, it has also given you the tools required to build an incredible long-term career. So don't waste it. Hello, my name is Alex Fisher. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, click subscribe. I write newsletters every week with these similar topics. And also, if you want to meet with me one-on-one to talk about your creative career, you can book one with the link in the description, and I will talk to you guys next time.